Ever wonder how you decide what to buy? Is it just random, or is there a science behind it? Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of consumer choice theory. Let's make sense of how you spend your hard-earned rupiah every day. Imagine you've got Rp 100,000 for the week. You love your daily coffee, which costs Rp 5,000 a cup, and you also enjoy snacks, which are Rp 10,000 each. This is what economists call your budget constraint. It's the limit on what you can afford. The formula looks a bit scary. P times X plus P times X equals your income. But it's simple. Let's say coffee is P and snacks are P. Your spending on coffee plus your spending on snacks has to equal your Rp 100,000 budget. So, what are your options? You could go all in on coffee and buy 20 cups, leaving no money for snacks. Or, you could buy 10 snacks and no coffee at all. Most likely, you'll choose a mix. Maybe 10 coffees, which costs Rp 50,000. The slope of this line is determined by the prices of the goods. In our case, the price of a snack is double the price of a coffee. This means to get one more snack, you have to give up to coffees. This trade-off is crucial. If the price of coffee suddenly jumped to Rp 10,000, your budget line would pivot. Now, one snack costs the same as one coffee. The trade-off has changed. Your purchasing power for coffee has been cut in half. Okay, so we know what you can buy, but what do you want to buy? This is where your personal preferences come in. Economists use a cool tool called an indifference curve to map out your satisfaction. An indifference curve shows all the combinations of two goods that make you equally happy. Let's stick with coffee and snacks. Maybe you're equally happy with 10 coffees and 5 snacks as you are with 6 coffees and 7 snacks. Both these points would lie on the same indifference curve. You are indifferent between them. Indifference curves have 4 key properties. First, higher indifference curves are always better. A curve representing 12 coffees and 6 snacks is better than the one with 10 and 5, simply because more is better. You'd always prefer to be on the highest possible indifference curve. Second, they are downward sloping. If you get more of one good, you have to give up some of the other to maintain the same level of happiness. If I give you another coffee, I need to take away a little bit of snack to keep you just as satisfied as before. Third, indifference curves never cross. This is because of a logic rule called transitivity. If they crossed, it would mean you're equally happy with point A and point B, and also equally happy with point B and point C. But point C might have more of both goods than point A, which would be a contradiction. It just can't happen. Fourth, they are bowed inward or convex. This shows the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Wow, big words. Let's break it down. The marginal rate of substitution, or MRS, is the rate at which you're willing to trade one good for another. When you have lots of coffee and only a few snacks, you might be willing to give up 3 coffees just to get one more snack. You're craving snacks, but once you have plenty of snacks and not much coffee, you might only be willing to give up half a coffee for that same extra snack. Your willingness to trade changes based on what you already have. Now for the magic moment, optimization. This is where we combine what you can afford, your budget constraint, with what you want, your indifference curves. Your goal as a rational consumer is to reach the highest possible indifference curve that you can still afford. Think about your budget line. You can choose any point on it. Now, picture your map of indifference curves. You want to get to the highest one. The optimal choice, the point of maximum happiness, is where your budget line just touches, or is tangent to, an indifference curve. At this sweet spot, the slope of the indifference curve equals the slope of the budget line. Remember the MRS, your personal willingness to trade, and the slope of the budget line, which is the market's price ratio. At the optimal point, your personal trade-off rate equals the market's trade-off rate. Your MRS equals the price ratio. Another way to say this is that the marginal utility per rupiah spent is equal for both goods. Marginal utility is the extra satisfaction you get from one more unit of a good. So, the extra happiness from your last rupiah spent on coffee should equal the extra happiness from your last rupiah spent on tea or snacks or anything else you buy. If it wasn't equal, you could shift your spending and become happier. Let's see this in action. Say you have Rp 50,000 for drinks this month. Your optimal choice will be where your personal willingness to trade, your MRS, is also due. At that point, you are willing to give up exactly 2 teas for 1 coffee. Let's say this happens when you buy 6 coffees and 8 teas. But what happens when things change? Let's start with income. What if you get a raise and now your budget is Rp 100,000? Your budget line shifts outward, parallel to the old one. You can now afford more of both goods. If coffee and tea are what we call normal goods, you'll buy more of both as your income rises. You might move from 6 coffees and 8 teas to, say, 10 coffees and 20 teas. Your consumption of normal goods increases with your income. But what about inferior goods? These are goods you buy less of as you get richer. Think of instant noodles. When you're a student on a tight budget, you might eat them a lot. But once you start earning more, you'll probably switch to eating at restaurants or buying more expensive ingredients. So, as your income goes up, your demand for instant noodles goes down. For you, in that case, instant noodles are an inferior good. Now, let's look at price changes. This is a bit more complex because a price change has 2 different effects, the substitution effect and the income effect. Let's go back to our coffee and tea example. First, the substitution effect. Coffee is now relatively more expensive than tea. The price ratio changed from 2 to 3. Your rational brain says, wow, coffee is a worse deal now. I should buy less coffee and more of the relatively cheaper option, tea. This is the substitution effect. It always pushes you to consume less of the good that got more expensive. But that's not all. There's also the income effect. When the price of coffee goes up, your Rp 50,000 budget doesn't go as far as it used to. Your real purchasing power has decreased. It feels like you've had a pay cut. Because you feel poorer, you will likely cut back on your consumption of all normal goods. This is the income effect. So, for a normal good like coffee, the price increase has 2 impacts pushing you to buy less. The substitution effect says buy less coffee because it's a worse deal. The income effect says buy less coffee because you feel poorer overall. Both effects work together, so you definitely buy less coffee. What about tea? The substitution effect pushes you to buy more tea because it's now relatively cheaper. But the income effect, because you feel poorer, pushes you to buy less tea, assuming it's a normal good. So the total effect on tea is ambiguous. It depends on which effect is stronger. You might end up buying more tea, or you might end up buying less. This framework of budget constraints and indifference curves is incredibly powerful. It explains why demand curves slope downwards. As the price of a good falls, the substitution and income effects generally lead you to buy more of it. It also helps businesses understand their customers. A company needs to know if its product is a normal good or an inferior good, and how sensitive its customers are to price changes relative to competitors. It even applies to decisions beyond buying things, like how you allocate your time between work and leisure. So next time you're at a cafe, a Waring, or the supermarket, thinking about whether to get the regular Kopi Susu or the fancy single origin brew, you can smile. You know that deep down, your brain is solving a complex optimization problem, balancing your budget with your preferences to get the most happiness out of every single rupiah. Understanding this theory doesn't just make you a smarter economist, it makes you a more conscious consumer. You start to see the trade-offs everywhere, which can help you make better decisions that align with your true priorities. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this look into consumer choice was helpful and interesting. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about how economics shapes our world, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.